at a time with Ian and Jeff. And here we go.
Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of a company called Retail Resilient, social selling for the car industry. And we help auto dealers, auto agencies, and vendors in the auto industry sell more cars, service more cars, and make more money using our social selling strategy. That includes TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anything else you can think of. So if you're looking to invest thousands and make millions, we're definitely the social selling company for you. Like I said, who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
If you run a service drive, you know these days, first impressions matter. But when your advisors are tied up with inbound phone calls, they tend to neglect their other, more important duties. And did you know 75% of all service calls are frequently asked questions and routine requests? Still, the average dealer misses up to 30% of inbound calls, adding up to a ton of missed service opportunity and increased customer churn. 68% of callers actually go elsewhere if they can't get through, which means you could be losing $60,000 to $70,000 every month in service revenue simply from missing calls. So who will pick up? Introducing Brooke.
Hi there.
Your best service scheduling assistant. Brooke is the first intelligent digital voice assistant to answer, handle, and appoint all of your inbound service calls. And talking to Brooke is like talking to a friend with human-level understanding in a friendly conversational voice. Her conversational intelligence is built on millions of actual service industry conversations. Book with Brooke today. Visit Brooke.ai or call 866-942-1236. Finally, the perfect match.
Our goals are always to improve. Every month we want to improve better on what we did the month before, maybe the year before. It's about how fast we can get the cars done with quality work to get it to the front line, because that's where we make our money. And the bottom line is the longer it takes, the more money you spend. We want to get it down as low as possible. Right now, like I said, we're in a great stage. We're at 4.5 days. In recon, we want to know how quickly we can get the cars out of the recon process and to the front line. The average days in recon and then the time to line are the most important thing to do. I'm Mike Burrell. I'm Service Director at JM Lexus.
Larry Feldman is probably the most amazing trainer that I've ever experienced in this business. I've been in the car business now for 35 years, and I've seen quite a few trainers. A lot of them are pretty good. I mean, really, I get something out of all of them that I've seen, really. But Larry is in another class. I really mean that. His training is literally riveting. A little while back, I sat in on his first training that I ever sat in on. It was for new hires. I still remember. I'll never forget it. About 25 people in the room who had never sold cars before. And after 2 hours, I raised my hand. Larry stopped what he's doing and said, yes. And I said, maybe we should take a break. And literally, I'll never forget it. All 25 people turned around, looked at me, and went, well, okay. And he kept going for another 2 hours. Since then, I've seen a few other of his trainings. I've hired people out of his classes. All I can say is, you got to give him a try.
All right, good morning and welcome. So as always, a few book recommendations. The Kindness Method by Sharu Azai, The Profit of Kindness by Joe Lubin, and Do the Kind Thing by the person who founded the granola bar company Kind, if you're not familiar with their products. Go ahead, Jeff.
So what you're culture.
Sorry, Jeff, we lost you.
I'm trying to start it with a laugh here. Anyways, our disclaimer is the views and opinions today on our show are those of our guests and not necessarily that of the Auto Hub show or Ian Nethercott or Jeff Polo. And please read our disclaimers on the website, and so you can, if you want to know all the fine details. Ian.
So the show today is obviously about customers and kindness. And if you are going to San Diego, we are booking live guests for the show. We'll have shows multiple days. You can check it out on our website. And of course, let's get into it. So go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. Morning. We have a great group of people joining us. And, with any luck, we'll have a couple others joining in later. I'm sorry. It's sometimes we get confused with all the time zones that we go between. We will first start with somebody who's new to the show, which is Matthew Walton from the my favorite line. Whenever we have somebody from this company on board, the mothership of everything digital, from Google, joining us from Toronto. Matt, can you introduce yourself?
Hi,
everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, but tell me something. After that, answer the question is, what's your opinion on the validity of customer treatment equaling profit when so many dealers today are making a killing just by being open and having the car?
Sure, yeah. So, first off, hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Matt Walton. I'm the head of analytics for the automotive industry here in Canada. So I lead all our analysts who look at all the data and use the data to sort of help our customers make the most of their investments with Google. So, on your question around, taking advantage of customers in the short term because they have inventory, certainly around profitability. When I think of profit, the thing that really pops up to me that we talk about a lot is, changing the way that we think rather than around profit. The metric we like to look at is customer lifetime value. Right. Profit is not something that's just realized in a single transaction, but over the course of a relationship with a customer. The question that I have really is just, if taking advantage of a customer in the short term is going to have an effect on that long-term business. I think, TBD, we don't know yet. But that would be my question, my initial response to some of the actions that you might be seeing in the industry right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Secondly, we have with us our good friend Scott Peckstein, joining us from Digital Airstrike. One of my favorite names out there. Every time I have somebody on from the company, I just love it because your logos are sites and I think of video games. But Scott, please introduce yourself and again tell us your opinion on this comment of treating people well when right now you don't have to.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Scott Peckstein with Digital Airstrike. I run their business development. I'm out of Southern California. Matt articulated it great. I don't know if I can top that. There's short-term gains and there's long-term gains. Short-term gains have never made anyone rich. Right? It's like the stock market. If you're going to sell your dealership in the next 12 to 18 months, great news. You don't have to be kind to anybody. Sell the inventory that you've got for whatever you want. But long term, you hear of these dealers that throughout the last 2.5 years have made it a thing not to go over MSRP, advertise that with consumer, and they probably have a much better, to Matt's point, consumer life cycle than those at 10, 15,000 over and not treating them fairly. It's service that keeps the lights on in the long run. We've had some great times over the past 2-3 years. We haven't seen this in decades. It's not going to continue. And I'm sure we're going to get into it throughout the remainder of this phone call, but you've got to get back to the blocking and tackling that put you in existence to begin with, and set yourself up for some tough times again where you actually have to sell and not take orders.
Yeah, thank you. That's a tremendous point. And it definitely, there's going to be a reckoning day. I firmly believe that. And depending on your term of reckoning, it's going to be something. And I think also when you talk about selling your dealership, some of these people are going to hold out till things go the other way. And all of a sudden their value is going to go out the window. Next, we have with us Brooke Furness from BZ Consultants. Canadian version's BZ, but we won't get into that. Joining us, and Brooke, you're quite an opinionated person, and rightly so, I must say. So please say hi. You're no stranger to Ian and myself and the fans of our show. But also, what do you think about this? Because I will mention one thing before I continue. Ian and I were talking earlier before everybody logged on, and there's a deal that advertises, we treat you well, we're highest rated in the country, and we're the best place to work for, and we don't overcharge you. And then there was fees. There was a detail fee. There was a gas fee. There was a, I don't know, was it advertising fee?
Yeah.
Like a good friend I
Experience fee.
used to work with, and just a great car guy said hot dog fee. There wasn't at this store. But, we're all saying these good things, but, what really is going to happen here? When is this thing going to change?
Surprised there wasn't a rusting fee on top of that. So yeah, there's a breathing and oxygen fee for you coming to our store. That's so Taj Mahal. Yes. No, it's a big couple of things on this, and I don't want to say ditto to what's been said. So I want to take a little bit different angle on this. Is that what I've seen since I'll say the start of the year, and it's not just stores that clients of my own. I've seen it across the nation. You've seen their reputation just go. Not all stores that have said, hey, we understand what is going on, and we're not going to take advantage of our clients and our guests. We understand that, hey, there is inflation and things have changed. So we do have to change with the times to stay afloat. We also understand there's not a reason to mark up a Toyota Corolla $50,000 above MSRP. There's a big difference here. So with that, the other people that have taken a different approach, and that's a story for another day, but the ones that have taken a different approach, I've seen that reputation across the nation, and I don't even have to look at their gross profit. I don't have to look into anything else. I can just, based on facts, I've seen the reputation go from 4.9 with, we'll say, 3,000 reviews. Now, if you have 3,000 reviews, to go from a 4.9 up or down takes a lot, and to go the opposite spectrum, from 4.9 to 4.2. That takes a lot. So that's number one. Number two, there was an article recently that Stellantis acts 138 UK dealers as it seeks to streamline business. But if you actually look at that, people are like, oh, we're going franchise. Well, if you actually look in the article, the reason they did that was because of poor customer service. That's why they axed them. So you look at all these different things and say, okay, well, what's actually going on? Well, it's because certain dealers, not all dealers, let me be very clear, there's some incredible dealers, and our auto industry is really incredible. There are awesome people doing awesome jobs. It's the dealers that have said, you know what, we're going to get drunk on profit and run with it. So when you do that, going to CLV, doing all these different things, and you focus on, we are going to take care of the customer. We are going to look at the long-term goal. We're going to look at all the way into the future and not get into bad habits. We're not going to do the short gains. We're not going to be one of those 138 dealers in the UK that got axed because we got lazy and got drunk on profit. So there's all these different things have already been said to say, back to the same article, 80% of people who are loyal to a brand are loyal to the brand because of the good purchase experience. The same thing says, Rita Proctor says she also told that customer service is the number one reason why people stay loyal to the dealer. So all these things go back to the same thing. We can talk about stats that I know we're getting into, but that's exactly what you said.
Thank you so much. It's a very good viewpoint. I love the term drunk on profit. So really what you're telling me in January, perhaps the NADA should not have airplane manufacturers sitting displaying at the show. Although I quite like the one they had there this year with the parachute. Next we have joining us is Peter Smith. Peter, I'll get you to introduce yourself. Sort of answer this question. Peter's located, I believe you're in the Niagara area. Is that correct, Peter?
Correct. So I live in Niagara. I operate my company out of the GTA. We're the Lion Partnership. We have a number of experts that have joined us to assist dealers in providing the proper intelligence and knowledge to move forward in this dimension that we've entered in. I like to think about the Twilight Zone. We're entering a new dimension. It's
for your approval.
Yeah,
It's a Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I started in this business in '84. So I've been around for quite some time and seen a lot of different changes. But in the last 2 years, and I'll go to Brooke's comment, is people are COVID drunk. There's no inventory. So they're just saying, hey, you know what? No inventory. We're going to charge what we want to charge. And I'll be damned. And that's it. And the customer is the one that is getting hammered with this. And prior to that, 2 years before that, we transitioned from customer satisfaction indexes to customer experience indexes, and the CX became the new norm, and now the CX has gone out the window because of the inventory. Who cares? You know what? But I have one Jeep EV that I want to sell, and I'm going to sell it for whatever I can get it for, and that's that. Or a Bronco or whatever, and no one cares. And it's going to reflect in the long-term customer value, as was mentioned earlier, because that person's never going to walk through the door again. I just bought an EV, a Jeep hybrid, and I'll never return to the dealer because the experience was just ridiculous. And I bought 7 cars from that dealer. And it's got to change. And the companies that are out there that are pushing these changes will get them in the right direction. As it was related earlier in the call, is that these new acts are coming involved. Ontario has had an act that is basically not allowing dealers to hide things. It's completely transparent now in Ontario, so you know what you're getting.
The hot dog fee.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I bought a dozen.
Yeah. Ian, speaking of the 80s here, maybe you could hit the next question.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So, but one of the guys I work with was looking for a new BMW M5, whatever those things are. Anyway, so he was looking at a used one and new ones, and I helped him because I lived like, no word of a lie, 2 blocks away from the dealer. So I went in there and I'm looking at all these fees and I'm going, dude, you've had this car for 60 days. It's a used car. You're charging me a detail fee, a gas fee, a documentation fee, a finance fee, and something else. And I said, like, in what universe do I pay for any of that? Like, it's a used car, dude. What is there, like a freight and PDI on top of that? I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like the fees were like there was a separate sticker for fees. I just could not believe it. I was like, wow. So that was kind of funny. I mean, not only that, he hasn't been able to sell it for 60 days in a market that he should have gotten rid of it 30 days ago. But anyway.
Ian, isn't that the dealer that flies to Malaysia every weekend to race Porsches?
I don't know. He called 3 dealers and they're all giving him the same runner. It was hilarious. I was like, really, dude? You know? Anyway, it was hilarious. So when you look at the 1988, and the one that comes to mind is Cadillac Man, if you haven't seen it, with Robin Williams, and I'm trying to think the other actor in it. And there's also, of course, Used Cars, and of course The Goods, which is the latest one. I mean, when you look at these movies back in the day, and you look at the tactics then, I mean, how is that different than what's going on right now? I mean, that's my question. Let's start with Brooke, so she has no opinions on this topic.
Never. As we're talking, I was trying to remember, because when I was talking before, I didn't have it pulled up before me. So just to kind of put a bow on this, in going back, a study found that 80% of new vehicle buyers in May and June 2022 paid at or above MSRP to purchase vehicle. So you go back and say, okay, how many of those people are actually statistically are not going to come back? So a total of 34% admitted to paying fees they had never heard of before. 31% purchased a model that wasn't their first choice. 30% compromised on the features they wanted, and 30% bought the vehicle from a dealer that wasn't their first choice. And I believe it's 25, but I wanted to see. I'm just trying. I apologize. I'm doing this right now. 31%. I'm sure. Yeah, I think 25% said they would not go back. One study. And I'm trying to find this right now of how many said they actually would. There's another study that said that. Anyways, I know it's a minimum of 25% of consumers said if they paid over MSRP will not go back to that dealer. And I've seen other studies that are higher. So I just wanted to I wanted to go back to that because I knew there were a couple of studies about this of how many consumers say they will not go back to a dealer that's above MSRP. So anyway, sorry. Ask that question again. I just wanted to get some statistics.
1988, and I don't know if you remember with the Kurt Russell movie Used Cars, which I think is from the early 80s. And then Cadillac Man, and the image that always makes me laugh in that movie is he's trying to sell the guy whose hearse broke down her hearse because it's broken down on the side of the road. And then he tries to sell the widow a car before she buries her husband, Robin Williams, for example. And, there's obviously a lot of, talk for the last 25 plus years on used cars specifically, but what do you think has really changed in terms of, are we treating people better today than we were 30 years ago, for example?
It depends on the dealership. Some dealers are treating them better, some are treating them worse. So it really depends on the dealership. I've seen some dealerships that say, not only are we going to streamline the entire process for you, we're going to make it so much less time in the dealership. If your car breaks down the side of the road, we have a service mobility option. So we'll actually take everything to you. So it's so much better. And some other dealerships are complete opposite. We're not going to show you price, or if we show you price, that's not the price, which is actually so insanely illegal that the DOT gets ahead of that. That's a whole other story. So it really depends on the store. So I don't have a clear-cut answer other than that. Then it really depends on the store.
All right. Matt, maybe you have an answer from some data, maybe, since you're the data guy.
Yeah, sure do. I mean, I think expectations of the customer are completely different these days, especially than what they were in 1988, right? Customers are walking into dealers and they're so much more informed about the vehicle that they're looking to purchase, and that they're not looking to be sold to per se, but they're looking for help. They're looking to confirm the information that they've learned online. We see that like 48% of car buyers who use YouTube have watched a video of the vehicle before walking into the dealership. They've already seen what it's like. They've looked at the reviews online and things like that. So they're looking to confirm a lot of those things and help them make that sale. And especially at a time, where, as Brooke pointed out, like loyalty is really difficult. I mean, it's the time to build that relationship with the customer, create a better experience. Because all the numbers that we look at, we see loyalty, switching is up, and they continue to trend in that direction. Loyalty is down. Folks are more likely to switch brands. And, of course, inventory is going to play a big role in that. But, coming into the future, as we look into things like the EV brands, that's a place where we see the most volatility around brand switching and brand loyalty. Frankly, there's a lot more options to choose from. And we see those numbers fluctuate very quickly. And so, understanding that building the relationship with the customer is essential if you're going to retain that loyalty over the long term. So there you go.
Thanks for that. Scott, thoughts?
Well, I started selling Fords in the mid-90s out here in Southern California. Back then, we were all salesmen. We were trained on the Foursquare. You remember the Foursquare? Oh, yeah. You've got price in one corner, you've got payment in the other, trade, money down. Completely counterintuitive, made absolutely no sense. To answer your question directly, Ian, I think we've come a long way. I think we've come a long way where the majority, over 50% of dealers across the nation since, what was your year, 88?
88, yeah.
Whatever the reference date is, we've come a long way, and we've turned, for the majority of us, from sales people to consultants. To Matt's point, loyalty is down. Now, to some extent, we're victims of circumstance there, right? Because there are more make model combinations for the consumer to choose from today than any year prior. So it's more difficult, right? The consumer make a choice and they're going to flip-flop and they're going to conquest back and forth. But I don't want to take it away and be all negative. We talked about price for the first 22 minutes of this phone call. I feel price is only relevant in the absence of value. So I'll give you two examples. Ritz-Carlton. They've got a Ritz-Carlton down the street here in Dana Point, Laguna Niguel. It's booked out. You can go online right now and try to reserve a room for this weekend. You won't get one. They charge a lot. Jeff, they charge a hot dog fee. And I Googled it a couple minutes ago. The average Ritz-Carlton hot dog fee, their resort fee, is $60 a night. It's okay to charge a hot dog fee, but is the consumer getting value? Consumers will pay. The other example I have is Chick-fil-A, right? Chick-fil-A is not the cheapest fast food chain. It's the one of the most expensive. You get the 20-piece chicken nuggets, it's going to set you back like $18. It's ridiculous. But there's a line out the door for both Ritz-Carlton and for Chick-fil-A. Why? It's the way they treat people. The words "you're welcome" do not exist in those two establishments. The little things, they change it with "my pleasure." And that's something everybody can relate to. So it doesn't all come down to money and grosses. You have a license to make as much money as you want. going back to that opening video, as long as you're kind, as long as you're getting back to the consumers. If we're going to talk about stats, we do a trend study every year. We survey a little over 5,000 consumers, a couple thousand dealers. And 2 years ago, the trend study basically said that of leads submitted to dealerships, a quarter of those dealers never even responded. Never even responded. Not even an autoresponder. What is that? They pay all this money and invest all this money for all these consumers. They don't even respond to 25% of them. That percentage rate went up 6% on our last trend study, meaning now just close to a third of the leads that we send into dealers go unanswered. Do they not want our business? That's where it starts.
Well, I agree 100%. We were recently in Vegas for driving sales, and I stayed at the Hilton property, which used to be the Hard Rock. It's operated by Virgin. It's the first time I've ever stayed in Vegas. Unfortunately, I've been there more times than I'd like to admit, where they actually sent me an email before I got. They said, "We're charging you a resort fee. Congratulations, and here's what you get for it." No one else ever did that. It was just like you showed up. Oh, by the way, we're gonna need this extra money, right? So to me, that was a masterstroke. And I know Virgin is pretty good at customer service, but it was like shocking that they even did something. Like no one else did anything, no matter what hotel. And I've stayed at some of the, I guess, entry level and high end hotels in that town. So it was really funny. Anyway, Peter.
Well, living in Niagara Falls being one of the 7 wonders of the world, all the hotels here charge tourist fees, and I can't understand what a tourist fee is. Okay, so you're identifying a demographic and charging them money for it. It's insane. But to go along with the customer experience, in my career, I worked for one of the premier luxury brand companies out in our area here, and they were known throughout the country as having the highest gross profit. Absolutely, they were just ridiculously higher than any dealership in the area. Why did they charge that? Because they fell down and said, "Hey, you know what? We're charging that because we're going to give you service that you've never ever had before." And it was true. We were available to our clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We all had our home and cell phone numbers on our business cards. We were there to provide them with service that, as respectfully, buying a expensive automobile, they knew that they had someone in their corner at all times, and they would pay for that. Because when you add in and you amortize the costing, you say, "Hey, I'm going to charge you another $2,000. You're going to have this car for 4 years. It's going to cost you $500 a year. It's $1.25 a day." Does that really matter to you? No. Okay, great. Does service matter to you? Absolutely. And that's where we excel. Now, I always look at it and as we were talking about Ritz-Carlton and Chick-fil-A, I said, "What's the most expensive hamburger you've ever had?" $20. What's the least expensive? $2. What's the difference? Quality and service. And that's where it comes down to it. And you have no problem paying for quality and service, but there is going to be a value proposition that you're going to hit. It might be $13, it might be $15, but you're going to hit that value prop, and that's where you're going to end up as a consumer. Another consumer might go to 20, might go to 25, might go to McEwen's downtown Toronto, which is $100. So it all depends on what you're looking for and what you want, and meeting the customer's expectations of service.
Fantastic. Jeff?
Well, that's such a good point, and all of you brought up some really good points. And Scott, definitely this Ritz-Carlton thing is very true. And a perfect example is you'll see a lady going down generally New York, LA, Toronto, Vancouver, etc., the places that have the demographic, wearing a Birkin bag. You see Brooke will start to smile there because I know it's very important to her. No. Nikes are important to her.
Give me my Jordans, I'm good to go. Yes.
There we go, Jordans, exactly. Now this bag, it is a nice bag. It looks very nice. It's made out of leather. It carries stuff. but it's like $15,000, $18,000, $20,000, $25,000 for a purse.
And I think the wait list is like, what, 5 years for it?
Exactly. So it is a value proposition. And, you know, to preface my next question, I just had a friend who picked up a new EV. And it was, I'll say it right up front, it's a Polestar. And he's over the moon happy with it. And you go on their website and you build it out, and it's $90,000 Canadian with tax. That's what, 12,000 American. And just kidding. You know, he paid 100. I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure if it's because he's bragging. And another good friend rode with him and says, well, it's very nice, it's very fast, but it doesn't have stuff my Hyundai does. And so, you know something, the next question I have here is I says, the new OEMs promote themselves as customer centric. We treat you better than those bastard car dealers because we don't have dealerships. We're good people. We love and hug you. And Peter, we have talked about your magnificent customer experience with the EV manufacturer of all the EVs. Please tell us, are they really customer centric?
Tesla? Sorry, I shouldn't have said their word.
Trust me, Elon can do whatever he wants. It doesn't matter what anybody says.
Well, when I was an early adopter of Tesla, I got my first one in, I believe, was 16. That car lasted a whole 3,000 miles before it decided to turn me into a guardrail on its autopilot. Wrestled it off the guardrail and went back to the dealer, and the dealer said, let us check it out. It took them 3 months to declare the car unsafe, and they bought the car back. Now, in that time, they gave me a brand new P100X to drive while I waited for my next one to come in. My next one came in and needed 5 body panels painted before I even got it. So they looked after it. They got me another car, and everything went fine. So they were always on top of making me happy. But the whole experience of buying an extremely expensive automobile and having to go through those teething pains, I accepted it as being an early adopter. Today, I wouldn't accept it. That's why I don't have a Tesla in my driveway. I switched back out of full EV to hybrid, and I honestly think there's going to be a crash in the EV market coming, and I think so many people are rushing to market to get into it because they're afraid of the governments that we're looking at the wrong possibilities there. But when it comes down to satisfaction and dealerships, Tesla does do a great job with their direct consumer model. Can the main manufacturers come into that? Not a chance. There's no way that the main manufacturers can get into the D2C. So I don't know. I'm the right person to ask because in the last 5 years I've had bad experiences.
Well, I have to tell you one great thing about the dealership model. If you have a bad experience with a dealer, like you mentioned with getting your latest car, and you like the brand, you can go to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And, that's the one thing when it's direct to consumer, you can't. Matt, I'll get you to chime in on your end of this thing and what you think.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I got to admit, I almost disagree with the premise of the question. I think, if you take the average customer, do they know the difference between the OEM and the dealership? In my mind, the customer needs car, customer finds car, customer buys car, and the dealership is an extension of that process, as is the OEM and the brand that they might connect with. And so I think becoming customer-centric really requires rethinking the way that the industry is presented to the consumer and improving the buy flow. One simple example is trying to buy a vehicle requires that you navigate many different websites. I go to OEM website, I go to dealer website, I go to competing dealer websites. That's often sort of the setup. But is that the optimal consumer experience for our customers? And I think you could debate that, and I'm not here to debate that. But what I would say is like creating a customer-centric experience, especially nowadays where we need to do it with scale, requires using our data that's underneath all of this, accessing our customer data with scale to activate strategies that will speak to customers and tailor experience for customer needs. And I'd like to tell just a little story, like talk about how we think getting data with it, especially with marketing platforms, not with Google, but all out there. I'm with a name about a big retail company. I can told me about. I explain how use your data. Put it into a form and talk speedily to your customers. And so, the retail, a majority of sales come from customers. 50% of them come from customers. It's a group of them extremely high similarities in industry where loyalty is a component of. I explain knowledge, customer match. But said, that's my honest strat. I use store managers. I could have used a 2C1 strategy was a Rolodex the door. Once my club come in, our top customer would go to the roll up box. It would say H1S. And so he would go over and he would a cup of coffee, put in creams and sugar, and he would go over to create this really experience for customer. Remember, he's having experience when he can retain them, come back. The reason is doing that with a scale, these is difficult, and bring customer experiences as we can do by using data and bring it into the platform, bring difftages, bring buy to some customer who might be doing get parts for sales, so on. I'll say that I think data is at the key customer strategy.
I tell you what, counting the data, we're expecting things like algorithms and all this high tech talk comes from me want car, me find car, me buy car, me happy. I love it. I just love it. Scott, your viewpoint on this with the new OEMs and customer centric operations.
Sure thing, Chef. To answer your question directly, no. The OEM doesn't. They don't have the capacity to follow up with the consumer, to even respond back to the consumer during this ever so confusing time to buy a vehicle. Peter mentioned EVs. Peter, I live in California. Please don't even get me started on EVs. They don't have the capacity to even service the EVs. Right? The majority of the consumers coming to the EV market have the questions that you had back in 2016. Can I even make it to my local ski mountain? Can I drive to Arizona? There's one, if you were to drive to Arizona, there's one EV stop on the border, and typically there's a line that lasts anywhere from, I don't know, to be fair, 10 minutes off peak to 6 to 7 hours on peak. What is that? So again, coming back to the question, the OEMs today don't have the capacity to handle the consumer in the way that the dealer do. I'll give you an example. There's convenience stores all over the world, 7-Elevens. Let's run with that. Why go to 7-Eleven and pay $2 more for milk when you can get it at Costco for $2 less? Heck, you can get it at the local grocery store for $1 less. It's convenient. Dealerships are convenience stores. It's convenient for the consumer. It's a consultative approach with all the make model combinations in the market today. The OEMs do not have the capacity the dealers do. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily the dealers are taking advantage of that because they're acting like I don't want to make blanket statements. There's many dealers acting like order takers. There's many not. So to be fair, but to get back to our consultative roots and consult the consumer, which they're begging for, leads me to believe the answer to Ian's original question is absolutely not. This is still a dealer-centric business, not a direct OEM business.
Well, thanks for that viewpoint. We touch on this this EV thing a lot, and it's getting, I know in California, apparently I didn't see it, but I've seen a lot of posts on it, where they actually asked people recently to not charge their electric cars because of grid issues. So that got all the anti-EVers like, yes, sir. They were pretty excited about it. But it's interesting, you mentioned that 7-Eleven thing, because as a child, my dad had a grocery store, and he worked his tail off, and we didn't see him that often. And I grew up working in the store with him, and he hated 7-Eleven because they put him out of business. And to this day, I go to 7-Eleven very reluctantly. So it's interesting point there. So we will go to Brooke, who's sort of, I think Chicago's kind of like right in between pickup trucks and EVs, and because you're just, see, it seems to end literally, that how would I put it? The 6 miles from the water, the EV love tends to go away. Am I right?
It depends where you are. If you're downtown Chicago, there are not a lot of, I will say, pickup trucks. There's definitely the EVs. Like it just depends where you are. If you're right downtown Chicago, there aren't a lot of. I remember when I lived downtown Chicago for 7 years, and my friends, I now don't live in downtown Chicago anymore, but when I did, my friends now that when I had a car down there, people thought it was nuts. They're like, why are you paying? Because when you have a car, your parking spot in your garage is about $350 per, and we had 2 cars. So do the math on that one. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a car, but when you do, now my friends that do now, interestingly enough, on this whole topic, I have friends now that I talk with them, that aren't in the industry, and the information they're getting on in the EVs, I just go, where are you getting this information? Like, seriously, well, I found it on the internet. I go, you do understand not information that's internet, right? Like, find the internet's not real. Like, it's not. Please either come yourself or go ask a dealer about this, because the information you're getting on is so not even really correct. Like, and it's so far left. What the hell? I'm like, stop. No. If you've seen your next EV, that's fine. I don't care. Don't base any decisions on because it's not. I'm just point, if you have Axial came out, I think it's go do. There's a lot of it that are based on want, not what we want, not what the consumer wants. And your little shoppers so the dealer to be a resource of the information. At this point, I'll know that the manufacturer might not know the hand that have a place is astronomical. Anyone that you've spoken with that's not car industry, there's something, there's ranges, there's questions about the amount of questions that's about just the actual energy. There's so much information about charge. Somehow is the end when it comes to chargers out there that charge, and Tesla's not the only large vehicle. Like, it's out of control. You actually from that 50% of customers prefer the additional versus only 20% favor that direct retail. So start consumers. So if you expect the dealer to be there, this article goes on how it's coming more like genius, but if any like that, the deal is going to be there. The consumer sees, hey, that's where for information, and I do this so much. Going back to it earlier, so now a question: seriously, where is there some like for dummy true from there? But I am asked these questions, something to work for your information, because there's a lot of information.
So, Ian.
Yeah, I just changed the internet. The internet was a little choppy there, so it should be better. Anyway, maybe you can go with the next question, Jeff.
By all means. Can you name 2 must-have processes that are tantamount to happy customers? And I'm going to jump to Scott on this one.
All right. So two processes that a lot of dealers aren't embracing right now. One, let's call it the communication with orders. We're all taking a lot of pre-orders, right? The average consumer is putting 3, 4, 5 pre-orders in for the exact same vehicle across town. Who are they ultimately going to buy the vehicle from? You literally statistically have a 20% chance of getting that consumer to buy from you. Should all remain constant. Differentiate yourself and don't leave it up to the OEM to foster that communication from order to delivery. That's something that the dealership should do. The dealership should do it with video. The dealership should do it the old-fashioned way and call them. So that's one. That's something that's relatively new to us. Usually at the point of sale, with the exception of a birthday or an anniversary, communication gets cut off. At the point of sale is just the beginning of that relationship and where you need to foster that communication. Two, along those same lines, let's just go back to 1988. We used to preach when I started in the industry, response time and follow-up. Because it seems to be lacking based on the stats that we quoted earlier from our trend study. 1/3 of the leads that are sent to a dealer CRM aren't even acknowledged. There's a little bit of a room for improvement right there. The shelf life from the consumer per NADA used to be 42 days on a new car pre-pandemic. So shelf life, gestation period, from the time the consumer enters the market until they ultimately pull the trigger. That now, if you remove pre-orders, that now is down to 32 days. How long are our dealers following up with consumers? The good ones for up to 2 weeks. But there's a mismatch there. The consumer's in the market for 32 days on average, yet they're only getting followed up for 2 weeks. Let's stick with the football analogy. It's football season. It's like literally playing the Super Bowl, showing up and playing your heart out for the first half, going into the locker room and not even coming out and playing the second half of the football game. That's what's happening. So to answer your question directly, again, pre-orders, don't leave that communication up to your OEM. The majority of the dealers do. And two, blocking and tackling, acknowledging all your advertising dollars at work, acknowledging the leads that come in, responding to them, being open and honest, giving them a price, and following up for more than a week or even 2 weeks.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much. It's true. You know, we talk about this because generally somebody orders a car and it's crickets, and then they get a phone call. Oh, it's coming here. It's here. It's here. Come in today. Come in today. Pick it up. And they're like, and the only time they get a call earlier is when the finance manager calls to sell them stuff. So, Peter, Matt, actually, let's go back to you and do a little bit of statistic stuff.
Sure, yeah. So we've seen over the course of the pandemic that vehicle sales online have grown 6x since before the pandemic. So the customer process that, customers are looking to buy vehicles online. It might shock us all, and that's a world that's probably still a few years away where it's the norm. But we polled a number of Canadians, and they in some research that we've done, and they said 53% of Canadians said they would consider buying their next vehicle online. And we just haven't seen a ton of penetration in the industry around embracing that experience online. There's some new startups that are coming into play. Think Canada Drives and Clutch. Things like this, who have an end-to-end online experience, and I think we're going to see that trend continue for the dealerships. And I think the ones who get it and the ones who adopt early are going to really benefit from embracing that.
Jeff, I had a comment here on the Clutch and Canada Drive experience. I tried to sell my vehicle recently to multiple dealers and some online portals, including Automotive, which is another startup trying to sell vehicles. I have to give Canada Drives credit for the best long tail follow-up process. I would say Clutch was poor at best, and AutoZen was okay, but really Canada Drives compared to even dealers really have stuck in there for the long run, and that's the learning. Stay tuned for an article dropping soon from me. Anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, and for our American viewers, Canada Drives is sort of similar to Carvana without the 22-story vending machine, although I think that's the only cool thing about them. But it's very true. Their processes are exceptional. They follow up. And for all these people that post, sell us your car, we'll give you a number, they tend to be the only ones that consistently give a number. Everybody else comes up with the good old-fashioned stuff. I know you're sitting there and I can see you're ready to speak.
Yeah, not to say the same thing that Scott said with communication, but I think taking a little bit different is communication amongst everyone in the store and departments. That is something I always go back to, is that you have technology that doesn't speak to each other. That's a whole other episode in itself. And there's sometimes that you just can't do anything about that because companies won't come together, and it's a whole other topic. But communicating as an entire company, go and talk to each other. My goodness, if you've got the customer is sold, do the service handoff. Man, why do we somehow we've gotten out of that habit of actually having the service handoff? Hey, I've got a customer here, BDC, do the handoff. I mean, talk to one another. Just pick up the phone, pick up and get out of your chair and go talk to people. Have that communication. The other one is engagement. Engagement, not just with ourselves, but with the consumer. Too often is going back, we kind of talked about it, but as well as we have incredible tools at our fingertips. And if you've been in this long enough, going back to what Matt said, is we had the Rolodex. I remember a time in businesses where there were not CRMs. CRMs did not exist. And so we have tools now that are so incredible. Data mine that and work those engagements. Why are you paying for another tool when you're sitting on a freaking gold mine of all this stuff? Don't wait for something to tell you to do something, which probably you shouldn't be doing anyways. Look and use the tools that are already there to engage with your customers. That is going to drive loyalty. That is going to drive ROI. That is trying to drive all the gross profit, because then you can do all the other things I mentioned, of sending the videos, sending the text, doing the service, all the other things, but work on that communication and work on that engagement.
That's a good thing. It's, I can't remember who mentioned it a little bit ago, but I spent a lot of my career with the Chrysler Dodge Jeep land. And because up here we're over dealerized, in the Vancouver market, which is at that time was 1.5 million people, we had 18 Chrysler stores. I left the Chrysler world and I went to Toyota, where there was 11. And the Toyota world, they're doing what a lot of people are today. Yeah, they'll come back. Don't worry. The Chrysler world, I was like, please, that's your deal. And, that's certainly one process was follow-up, which you lived or died by. But, Peter, I'm going to get your opinion on this. There's two must-have processes to make happy customers.
You're muted.
Peter, you're on mute.
My apologies there.
You missed the tech review here, which is,
I had a landscaper outside. They were blowing leaves, so it was a little loud. The key word in your question is process. No one these days is defining the perfect process to handle their customers. And about 2 years ago, I defined a sales journey process, and most people think, oh, okay, meet and greet, do the 5-point the discussion, 5-point walk around, test drive, get them to land on a car, start the offer process, get them in the box, and boom, and deliver the car. That's the process most people said is this defined sales. Well, I did a sales definition process that was about 85 points. And in that 85 points, there were so many steps that the person has to take. And in creating a frictionless process, that 85-step process can still be done in 40 minutes. It's just on how you control the situation and bring your customer to get the best possible experience that they have. You have your flyby managers coming in. You're doing 5 steps at the same time and getting the job done. The second thing is transparency. You have to be transparent with the customer. And if the transparency is sharing data, sharing the process, sharing the knowledge, sharing the experience, sharing intelligence, people will respect you that much more if you are turning around and you're creating a different approach and you're sharing with them what you've been doing for the last 20 years in this industry. That, hey, we're going to go and we're going to take this step, and we're going to show you that in evaluating your trade, we're going to use wholesalers, auctions, this, that, whatever, and it's all going to be live. and you're going to see the best value come across, and you're going to receive that. We're transparent in that, and the experience level and the kindness and everything else, the people are going to increase your sales. I took a Volvo dealership from, and I'll get this, and I know the American dealers that listen to this, we did 77 new cars in 2017. At the end of 2019, we did 325 cars. So the jump was incredible because we changed the process. And we also became about 5 times more profitable because we recognized where we were lacking in every other aspect of the business. So it's creating process and being transparent with not only your customers, but with your staff as well. Because when you get a buy-in from everybody, you're going to create success levels.
Interesting point, actually. You mentioned staff, and boy, oh boy, I think that might be the number one process. Treat your staff properly, give them the right tools to work with. And, even these days with shortages, there's a lot of people that that aren't treating their staff well, that's for sure. Ian?
One last thing there, when we're talking about the 2S or 2C, 1S theory, there's actually a CRM in the automotive world that has favorite beverage on the main screen. Yeah. And it's coffee, tea, water, soda.
Love it. By the way, just so you know, everybody, when somebody lives in the Niagara region, they have the right to call themselves American or Canadian because they just have to step over the line. Then they can use pop on one side or soda on the other. Ian, I don't have the whole show to say that.
We're going to do a bonus quiz. So many dealerships subscribe to the thought process they have to offer different things than they feel best to make customers happy. Which of these things is the best to get that? Taj Mahal or cool-looking staff, lots of cars regardless of the pipeline and right stuff, nail salon and massage chairs, wavy guy or gorilla on the roof, last one, a serious one. So I don't know, best service? So let's start with Brooke.
If we're choosing from that list, it has to be one of those.
Yeah.
I think, it depends on how it's implemented. So I guess I'm going with the massage chair or nail salon, because if it's a cool looking staff, I don't know how that staff is actually treating it depends on how they're treating the employees. First off, it depends on how I'm treating them, and then how they're treating them, just top on down. So I'm going with the nail salon or massage chairs. So I want to do a serious one, yes, but I don't, that's what I would actually choose something else. But if I'm choosing from the list, there's to do that. And then I'm marketing that too as a culture type of thing, because once again, it starts top and work its way down.
Cool. Good choice. Scott?
The facility is going to be defined by most OEMs anyhow. Brooke, can I copy you? For the nail salon, obviously that's going to appease to half of your audience. The nails, not so much. I can't tell you last time I got a pedicure, but I'm also going to go with that one because it differentiates you. It builds value. Again, I keep thinking back to the Ritz-Carlton. What can I get at the Ritz that I can't get at any other hotel? What can I get at your dealership that I wouldn't get at another dealership while waiting for an oil change? So ditto with Brooke.
I have to pop in there, though, on the nail salon. I have seen more hockey players in nail salons than you could imagine. And we're talking the big NHL type, because they got to have those nails and the toesies right.
Interesting. Matt, what do you think? You probably have data.
I'm going to say I'm the data guy. I'm not allowed to have an opinion or a preference of these things. But what I'm going to say is that we got to test it. Funny anecdote we use, if you're not testing, you're resting. And so I think whatever your strategy is, I think it's something that you need to try it, see if it works, and try over again. And depending on, if it's a poster or a nail salon, it's going to differ in how you're going to measure it. But I think all of that matters, based on what you're trying. So my answer is to, install a culture of experimentation within your organization. Promote folks who have good ideas for things that we should be testing. That's really important to improving not only the entire customer experience, but your organization itself. So if you're not testing, you're resting.
Matt, I can tell you that we tested this at one of my, this is a while back at a store. Instead of doing the nail salon and massage chairs, it was a community that had a bunch of little tiny dogs. It was a really ritzy place. And so we did like they could come in and have their dogs have like shampooed and conditioned, and that one did extremely well because we knew that the nail salon and massage chairs wouldn't do well. So it's exactly what you just said.
Interesting you bring that up because we were in Vegas and we had one of our sponsors, Gail, do a group training on TikTok, and I learned a lot. But more importantly, I was shocked that the #1 watch videos were from the service department at car dealers. Thought that was really interesting. Peter?
Yep, 100% they are. Almost every single one of them are. Yeah.
Peter, what do you think?
First thing is the grill on the roof. It shows me that I don't want to stop there. So that's
the wavy guy.
The wavy guy's even worse. The sandwich board guy walking up and down the street is you know what? No. People want to multitask when they go to a dealer. So having the opportunity to do so, there's a Mercedes dealership in our local area here that has their whole basement is dedicated to the customer. So they have a movie theater, they have a golf simulator, they have a full spa, they have a hair salon, they have everything in their basement for their clientele. And it's a phenomenal system. And they went from being a micro dealer to being a major player in the GTA. So they know what's going on. I love the idea of having a dog salon in the dealership. I think that's a phenomenal opportunity that people aren't recognizing. And let's face it, the pet industry is $1 billion industry. So get involved with it. I know a lot of dealerships are pet friendly now, so let's migrate to that.
Jeff, final thoughts?
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I got to tell you something. We're picking up on the idea that we all really want to take care of our customers. We all want to make money too, but we obviously know that there's a right way and a wrong way. It's just that right way is very, very fractured. I think the wrong way is pretty clear, and some good points are made. Is you can get all the money, you can get all the fees. It's just how you handle it. To Scott's point, Ritz-Carlton says right up front, by the way, there's a $60 a day charge, which by the way is pretty low for a hotel these days. And for that $60, you're getting da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Whereas this dealer that Ian mentioned, there's the price of the car. And then there's this fee, and then there's this fee, and then there's that fee. And you know what? The hot dog fee, it's obviously tongue in cheek. But if it's all there, here's the suite of fees. They just don't want to tell somebody it's $2,700. But thank you all very much. It was a lot of fun, and I'm very surprised. I actually thought that lots of cars would come up there, the cool-looking staff or something. So that nail salon, I think we got to work on. And Ian, I think we need to consult people on building a nail salon. Yeah, thank you all. I'll leave it to Ian to close the show.
And the one fee I wouldn't recommend if you had a bad experience is the VIP experience fee, which, believe it or not, I've seen at a local dealership. So I said, so if the experience is bad, you're going to waive that fee then? And the salesman was like, what? So that's the one I'm going to end on. Have a great week. Thanks very much. See us in San Diego Live.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
All the best.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. It was a great show, and follow us anywhere you would like on your favorite podcast, on Facebook.